Welcome to Rupiana from Schönbrunn. It's very hot and it's very important day. 5 months in the war. I'm afraid it will take a 5 years period and we should not really encourage that. It's much better to intervene and to shorten the misery and the risk and the costs. Intervention is the better way. And I know that many people say that's dangerous, but it's much less dangerous than 5 years of constant war. Because the idea that the war will easily stop and the status quo of before will come, I think it's an absolute illusion by some pacifist appeasers, and it is not happening. So what we need to do is to intervene. Intervention is the way to stop the misery and also stop the risk of further constant escalation. Intervention obviously is already happening more or less. We are anyhow on the side of Ukraine, and that's where we should be, on the side of democracy and freedom. And we can also not choose otherwise. To be neutral like Austria would be a complete disgrace. So ultimately we are in this very clear situation. We just have to confront it and to fully think through. Because if we continue to somehow do just this kind of small-scale intervention, only financially and some military stuff, it's of course a very dramatic mistake. Because the way to end the war, as we have seen in Kosovo and in Bosnia, is decisive military intervention. Then you tip the balance, and then you decide who wins, and then the war is won. And one side has in general to win. You know, that's the only way to end wars, is by victory of one side. It's and there can be different forms of victory, but that's of course, but it must be that one side has the feeling that it cannot win anymore. And this must be the Russian side, which has the feeling that because they started, they have to an impression that the wall against they are running is simply too big. So the only way to stop the war is by Western military intervention. There is, I think, absolute logic in that. I cannot even imagine a theoretical construct which allows a different way to intervene than intervention. Because some sudden kind of stable compromise, that will be impossible. It will be a many years long slog. And that's, I think, something we should think about if we really want that. And if we don't want that, we have to intervene so heavily on the side of Ukraine. It's also without alternative to intervene on that side. So the logic is, you say, here is our support, and we support Ukraine to the maximum. And this maximum level is of course full fiscal, military, industrial armament. And based on that overwhelming force, then we say, of course, we will never attack Russia. We will also tell Ukraine not to do that. We will not give any reason for the full, whatever, European Russian war. But it will be so strong, the intervention, that it will lead to clear understanding on the Russian side that they cannot win anymore. And that's the only way. And also then to stop the war, and also then to make very clear that Ukraine, minus some of the occupied territories, fortunately it will not be possible to recover everything, is then firmly secured inside NATO. And that's the only way to end this war, and there is no other way. The rest, and this is the most logical alternative, is not 5 months, on 5 years, basically endless. Because we can, or someday maybe Putin will be no longer president, his successors will be in a struggle. We can also wait until that. Yeah, but that's the 5-year scenario plus. And I don't know if we are so interested in that one. So I say very clearly, the only logical way to end this disaster is military and political intervention of the West on the side of Ukraine, and that's what I'm calling for. And also the membership of Ukraine in NATO after the Western German model, and I said that already 2017 in public. I was very much punished for that, but this is what happened contrary to the Austrian neutrality treason to the Western Germans, and that was very good, and that's the only logical model for the success of Ukraine in these beautiful circumstances. And that's what we need to do, and that's the way for peace. I know that's nowhere very popular. Ukraine wants to be fully liberated, Russia wants to fully win, the Europeans mostly don't want to be involved, the Americans don't want any compromises. So we are, of course, absolutely in a mess, but the experience shows that only Western intervention can end war, and if you have a better settlement, tell me. I call for intervention. It's the only reasonable way to do it, and I want to make sure that it's very clear, and I don't want to be misunderstood. Please, NATO and EU jointly intervene on the side of Ukraine and anchor free European Ukraine fully in NATO and the EU, and start by the euro. Thanks a lot for that. More to come from Pax Europiana. Bye.